Hello out there on YouTube land, all you comic book aficionados, cool cats, cool kittens, you summer junkies out there. It is approximately 6:03, June 7th, 2025. And it's been a rainy Saturday that worked into my favor today. Had a lot going on the last 2 weeks, and actually tonight after I do the stream, the wife will probably be home. I'll probably want to cook some burgers. I want to watch a little Money in the Bank because right before this stream, I watched a fantastic. I don't know if it was a pay-per-view event or what's going on, but it popped up on my YouTube instead of Peacock or something. But it was Triple A Wrestling, owned now by WWF, doing WWE. Excuse me, I'm old school. WWE, doing a Worlds Collide Part Two. I think it was like 31 years later, and it was fantastic, right? But in the midst of all this, before all that happened, that'll be tonight. They're going to lead up to Money in the Bank tonight. I'm actually going to watch it. I watched more wrestling this year than I probably have in 15 years after growing up on it. So we're going to talk some comics. I'm going to show some comics. Going to show you some other things that I picked up. Maybe for the next hour or so. And if you guys are watching on the rewind, and if you're watching now, go ahead and like it, share it, subscribe, hit the alert, and the bell to let you know when we do these things. Because you got to be like John. John, 99.9% shows up in the comments before the show even starts. Great to see you, John. All kinds of great people in here already. We have it's going to pop up. Come on now. It's not a Howler Mouse live show if we don't have some technical issues here. But Crack is here. Comic Crack. I'm going to assume that he and LaRossa are going to be having their show tomorrow. Oh, man. Okay. There we go. Uh, Oh man, no wonder it wouldn't come up. We got tons. It just updated. We have tons of comments already. So let's get through those, and I'll show you some of the comics I got. All right, this is Comic Crack. How are you doing? We have Fanner here. Good afternoon. Great to see you. We got Crack raining here today as well. Finally, we needed the help with the wildfires. Oh man. All right, guys. So let's do the rain dance and get that going. Eric Breen, I agree. It is a great time to be alive. Too bad thumbnails don't have spell check. What? What? What is my thumbnail messed up? What? That'll be fixed on the rewind if there's something going on. Did I do something? Let me see. The Amazing Comic Call in May, June 20. I don't know. It looks like it's right to me, but we'll see what happens. I still call it WWF too. Yeah, man. My childhood there. Great to see you. All right, Fefner. What we got here? Talking about reading Howler, read Burns Man of Steel for the Red Burns Man of Steel for the first time in Man of Steel. Uh, I've been reading. I like the Superman title more than Wolfman's Adventures of Superman at this point. Yeah, yeah. One was a bit more street level. The other one was more Superman. You know what I mean? So yeah, yeah. And that's what I thought, Crack. We'll be chatting tomorrow. So everybody check that out. La Rosa and Comic Crack doing their thing tomorrow. Right. So anyway, I love this time of year because I do the flea markets. I have been doing these flea markets since I was a kid. The two bigger flea markets around here are Hillsville, that they do twice a year, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and then Dublin, Pulaski County Fairgrounds. They do that one twice a year, which was this weekend as we were going on. They have another one. God, when is it? September. And I always find good deals there, right? With comic books, right? But I skipped Hillsville and I found out I was right. They said there's like not that many vendors. It's usually in the fall that show really pops. They turn the whole town into a flea market. And I found that out this morning because this morning my butt was up with my wife at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. I made my coffee and I started realizing that this isn't just a habit. Okay. This is an experience. This is my peace. This is my getting out of town, getting out of the house, getting away from work, doing things that I actually enjoy. It's not quite a hike, but you still get your steps in. And so it's 5 in the morning. I walk outside. It is going to rain. It's stormed, and that worked in my favor. I carry a poncho, man. I'm ex-military. If it ain't raining, I ain't training. You got to remind me it's raining sometimes. You see me walking in it, right? But anyway, so I'm driving, right? And it's about an hour and 10-minute drive, but there's nobody on the road. I walked out, it's like this brisk 60 degrees. It feels good outside. I'm ready to go camping. You know what I mean? I have a tent that I've had for 2 years I haven't got to use and things like that. I got a kayak I haven't pulled out in a year and a half and stuff because of my health issues last year, and we're over those and things like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, this feels good. Right. So I'm going down the road. We got the red skies. I can see the sunrise, even though we have clouds on the, on the right behind it and everything like that. And then I get out the YouTube. And this is why I realized it was a great time to be alive, to be doing these things, right? Because at our fingertips, right, as a 50 something year old man, I have free music on YouTube, right? I had the subscriptions, to Sirius XM, which is fantastic. It's great. I have iHeartRadio. It's enough. And then you have YouTube. You can just kind of skip a commercial here and there. And all of a sudden, man, I'm like listening to some of the music from the 90s. I got a little Chemical Brothers going on. I got a little John Fogerty, and then all of a sudden in my mix, out of the blue comes Aretha Franklin, Chain of Fools. I'm on a back road. I now am covered. I get off the 4 lane, I-77 South, people. I go through South Gap. I now have 20 miles and with one prison on the way and some farmland in the Amish. I have nothing but trees around me and a clear road all the way through there, man. And I'm like, man, this is great. So then all of a sudden I rode into the storm, right? And people are now, this is what's great about it, right? I have my poncho. The rain does not bother me. I have my book bag under the poncho. I have spare bags to wrap my stuff up that I'm going to buy so it does not get wet. Should there be some freak accident, like my poncho gets stuck underneath my book bag, which has happened before and things like that, right? And I'm just like digging life because everybody is now, less people are coming to the flea market. They're going to come later. The rain's going to stop at 9:30 a.m. That's what another thing that's great to be about live. You don't have to guess with the weather. You just know, right? But the hardcore people like myself are there in line, right? Usually this line is already, I don't know, dozens and dozens of people. It's probably 1 dozen people in front of me. And that's where I talked about skipping Hillsville. And they said I did the right thing. You know what I mean? And these are my people. You know what I mean? Not just comic book people. These are flea market people. We are standing in the rain, 10 minutes to go before they open the doors. We go in and there are comics, there are smells. I can smell they're still cooking the food with the flea market, right? And this is a clean flea market, okay? This isn't, and we know what we're talking about. This isn't some leaky abandoned building that used to be a mall or something like that. You know what I mean? Where they don't upkeep the building, but they got all kinds of vendors there, and it just smells like rotten plastic and corn chips or something, right? And I'm just sitting here thinking, man, I have been doing this flea market at least well over 20 to 25 years, along with Hillsville and stuff like that, man. This isn't just like a habit. This isn't just like a tradition, man. This is an experience. You go into just a whole other frame of mind, and it's just real relaxing. So there's less people there, few less vendors. It's okay, right? But it's just it kind of, it to me, it made it even better. There's no fighting through crowds. The people who are here on a mission. We all have the same frame of mind, and there's some deals to be made. And I'll go ahead and tell you what the deals that I want to show you that I made today. In previously, I got a few things to show that I found at a mall of all places when I went out to be a responsible adult and buy some new shoes and got a few shirts, because we like to dress for work sometimes. I found I still fell backwards into some great comics and stuff, right? So we're going to look one more time at the comments. We've given people enough time to come up here. I mean, think about it, man. At my fingertips, what I'm saying, when I'm driving, I have any music I want. I've known this, but for some reason it was extra good this morning when I got to hear just Chain of Fools busting through my car, and then I could switch over to Testament the ballad. You know what I mean? It's just a fantastic time. As a kid who listened to the radio, and then as a kid, then got mesmerized by MTV for like about 5 or 6 years, and then I still have a CD collection. Now it's all like right here. You know what I mean? It's just great, man. Now, if you had told me as a kid this is how things were going to be, I would have been like, you're kidding me. All right, so one more time with comments, and then we'll figure out how we're going to look at these comics. I might flip the camera around. I might just hold them up. Who knows? Who knows, man? But it's great to see Breen in here, Comic Crack, and John. I told my wife today. Here we go. I told my wife today that we need to go to a flea market. Hope to get to one this summer. Yeah, yeah, man. Like I said, even if you don't find anything, it's great to get out and food and things. I saw a few people. I saw a few of the regulars out there buying their albums and a guy named Jason Scott who owns a store where he sells secondhand pop culture material. Great to see everybody. Yeah, Jay Lucian, great to see you, man. Awesome. What we got, Breen? What do we got? We're saying need you on that weight tonight, Jay. Lots of sports to talk to. Paolo is here. Good. Hey, what's up, Paolo? Our international man of mystery there. You're a couple hours ahead of us. I'm sure it's about midnight there where you're at. And Fefner Haller, I think I need to read some Peter David material in honor of the passing. He made me love James Madrix and Layla Miller. Absolutely, you're talking some X Factor there, aren't you, brother? All right, and I got to plug it, man. I think it was last week. There should be a live show where I kind of go through some of my favorite Peter David stuff, the stuff that popped into my head. I did a little bit of a Peter David tribute. I think it was last weekend. It's been recent, yeah. Okay, all right. Great to see everybody. All right. Okay, so like I said, I went to a mall. Uh, I go to this mall often. They actually have sports trade card shows about once a month to begin with, but it pretty much comes down to one main guy with a big table, and he's got toys, sports cards, coins. And he does it with his mom, and she's ironic, funny enough, she's the one that usually handles the comics. They get to be $1 a piece and stuff. And I didn't know they were going to be there. There was no sports show going on. They just kind of popped up on an off night, right? And these books ended up coming up to, and I think I'm doing this right, right? $1.25 a piece. Okay, after the deal he gave me. Now, normally they are $1 a piece, right? So just bear with me here, right? So number 9 here of Marvel Fanfare. I have so many issues of Marvel Fanfare of the 80s. This is the stuff that they printed. They would print short stories that they had in stock. You know what I mean? This thing had different characters, in 1 part, 2 part stories, different artists all the time. Archie Goodwin ran this thing, right? It has, things they just had laying around for filler issues, or if they ever got into a bind and they needed to meet a deadline and they needed to put in there. But a lot of this stuff was just kind of laying around. Is I think how it started. And they're like, this stuff needs to see print. So, we have a printout of a pin up here of the Black Widow. There's a 2 part story in the next issue here, but this is number 9, which is a Man Thing story. But this one is, this is fun. You have your editorial inside where Archie Goodwin is talking to you. The man definitely had a touch for comics. Anything he touched ended up with a unique feel, even if he was just editing and stuff. The guy had a vision. But this is Gray Morrow inking, with James DeMantis here, a story here. But I found out that why can I not get this one? And that's because this one, which was kind of hard to find, has a pinup in it that makes it collectible. It's supposed to be a key issue that I'm being sarcastic here. You can't tell, but it's true. It's true. And why is this one supposed to be a collectible? Because it has a pinup by Butch Guice, the late great Butch Guice. It's not the Wolverine Butch Guice layouts here that pinup that he has here. It's this one of Kitty wearing She-Hulk's sweater. I'm joking. If you have Sensational Spider, if you have Sensational She-Hulk #2 by John Byrne, she wears a oversized sweater too, relaxing. But it's because of what's here hidden behind this pillow. Garfield. Some people consider this the first Garfield in comics. I'll try not to do, opinion pieces here. Okay, guys, of what I think of some of these reasons to make things key. But what's really gets me about this is that we have Mowgli's brother here, and we have the great Gil Kane. Eric Breen is out there doing inks and stuff for Gil Kane being inked by Craig Russell, doing Mowgli's brother. A Jungle Book tie-in apparently, right? So much cool stuff that went through, Fanfare, man. You never knew what you were going to get back then with this stuff. And I think this was like bi-monthly or quarterly or something. But I have so many of them. I'm like, I'll just go ahead and might as well just fill up the run if I run across them pretty cheap and stuff. And this one has that problem with these fancy covers by Marvel. I could see there that these things were so hot off the presses that if you didn't watch, that is a thumbprint that I'm showing here. Somebody's thumbprint where they picked it up. I just now noticed that I was looking at it. This thing is mid-grade, but this is, like I said, just to do a collection. But that's what happened back in the days. I bought a few books, like my Wolverine #1 in what, 87, 88. It did the same thing. Yeah. So yeah, that fancy paper was just so great that you damage the comic just by buying it sometimes. All right. So we're going to keep going here. And then we had an issue of Muppet Babies, right? Guys, I don't know what's going on, but I'm getting a real soft spot for Star Comics, right? Now, I like my Gold Key Little Monsters, you know what I mean? I like a lot of that Archie and Archie like stuff, like Swinging with Scooter. I like to have fun with a few things, right? I have a few Casper I enjoy, a little Richie Rich every now and then, right? But something about the Muppet Babies. I grew up with the Muppets, guys. I'm at that age where the Muppet Show was on TV. I was 6 years old when the Muppet movie came out. I never had a chance. Grew up on Sesame Street. The Muppets were important as a kid, you know what I mean? And to see that they had a comic book just kind of cracks me up now. And the talent that would pop up on these things, right? Marie Severin, guys. Marie Severin, look her up. Marie Severin came in here and she has penciled the Muppet Babies. You know what I mean? I like when you have these. I mean, they were professionals; it was their job, but how versatile they were, and apparently, no job, you know, was too small. Oh, there's that issue #4 I was missing. I went to read Peter David's Saxon Violin and could not find issue #4, so I didn't read the 4-issue miniseries. And it's because when I bought these comics, apparently I made sure to go ahead and bag them because I need to buy some bags, right? Now, this in particular cracks me up, right? These are newsstands editions. These were $1.25 each, 3 issues, okay? And these are Bill Sienkiewicz covers, a comic book adaptation of the 1984 movie by David Lynch of Dune. And I like this version, right? I know it has problems, but stylistically, I can watch it all day. And plus, Sting popping in the movie was just an event on its own. It was just a great time. 1984 was just a cool time for pop culture and stuff, right? Now, I had all 3 issues of these, right? And I dragged them around. No comic bags, no anything. This was about 12 years old that I got these, right? I got my appendix took out and I was in the hospital for 5 days, right? I watched on I think it was a Tuesday, to tell you the truth, man. On a Tuesday on TBS, we were watching a movie called Coma, all right? And I'm like 12. Everybody's sitting around our little 2-bedroom apartment on top of each other, more or less. And I'm like, wow. In the movie Coma, I think from the late 70s or something, but basically people were going into a hospital for minor things like appendix and tonsils and things like that. And during anesthesia, they would go into a coma and they would ship their body to this huge building because they couldn't get out of a coma. And it turns out it's a big scandal, right? You know what I'm saying? So immediately after I go to bed, I start having shooting pains in my, right side. I'm dry heaving. I've thrown up so much I'm dry heaving all night long. The parents will not take me to the emergency room. This is an era of like, you better be bleeding if we're going to take you to the emergency room. They finally take me in the morning and they rush me up and they take out my appendix. And what I was told is it was so close that as they were removing the appendix and got it just away from me, it actually ruptured. I was told exploded, but it's it ruptured, right? So I got treated like a king. Okay. When I came out of the anesthesia, my little 10-inch black and white TV with the antenna is now hooked up to the cable of the hospital. And I wake up and I have Tom Petty, the video of Don't Come Around Here No More. And I've got Tom Petty in the screen right in my face, pointing at me with this top hat saying, Don't Come Around Here No More, as I wake up. So lots of people came by and everybody was bragging me comic books. So help, and I still have a ton of them. And I got a stack of comic books in those 2 or 3 days about that yay big, right? Action. Anything that was on the newsstand in my little town. And I ended up getting all 3 issues of Dune. And I sold them, I don't know, about 20 years ago and stuff. And it ended up blowing up. So I have issue 2 and 3. All right, here's #2 in their newsstand. That seems to be a thing. And here's #3. And this is actually one of my favorite covers when I was 12 and 13. Just how stylistic it is, right? Hopefully it's showing up here, right? So I got rid of this. So why am I talking about these? Well, it turns out that these are very collectible for some people. I don't have the #1, but I'll look for #1, but I can't wrap my head around it because the Marvel Super Special came out. This is the actual comic adaptation of of the Dune movie. And what they would do is they would have these adaptations in the Marvel Super Specials, and then they would break them down to 2 or 3 part stories. 1, 2, 3 in comics, 1 and 2. They took Dark Crystal, made it 2 issues. I think they did Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and that was 2 or 3 issues. And this was Dune. Now, people have I've talked about this with my fellow comic book aficionados in real life out here in the real world, and they'll say it's a magazine, it's not a comic. The problem with that is it says the official comics adaptation right on the cover. So I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm just saying there's a lot of things that don't make sense to me. So they were $1.25, so I grabbed them. You know what I'm saying? We're splitting hairs. These things sometimes do matter when it comes to price. You know what I'm saying? In facts. And then there's this, right? This is something. There are certain times that I have just decided and accepted that, hey, I'm not going to get a nice copy of that. I'm not going to be able to get this. New Teen Titans #2, the first appearance of the Terminator, now known as Deathstroke the Terminator. Yeah, I've just had some luck with that. The cheapest copy I ever found was 30 or 40 bucks in Salem, Virginia, seriously about 20 years ago. And I was like, I'll get it later. There's no that thing will start depreciating at some point and stuff like that, right? Wrong. And there's just things I'm like, I'm not going to get those. I'm not going to get a Fantastic Four 67 now, in my opinion, right? I've run backwards into some great things, right? So on this day that I go to the mall to buy shirts, and by the way, I found 4 for $6 out of JCPenney. Okay, it was a good day, right? They were on sale. It was a red tag, no, $5. It was a pink tag sale. And they were already on sale, but if they had a pink tag, they were just $5. So yeah, I made out like a bandit. Didn't find shoes, but I did find this for $1.25, folks. This was $1.50, but I buy off the people a whole lot. Whenever they're, for years, whenever I see them and stuff. So when I got that, he just went ahead and just made it $5 even for everything, right? Which comes to $1.25 for everything. This is what is this, 77? Help me out, guys. I don't want to open this thing up. But Battle of the Century, Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man. He had a stack of these Treasury Edition comics, and a majority of them were DC. He had the Fortress of Solitude from '81, right? The Superman special. He had the Flash versus Superman Marvel Treasury Edition and stuff like that. And I can't remember if he had any Marvel ones and stuff, right? Marvel ones, Marvel issues and stuff. Because I was kind of mesmerized on this. I even walked away and I went back and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting that. Because I was going to be an adult that day. I'm like, I got to buy clothes. I'm like, screw it. So yeah, and I looked it up, and in the condition and shape this is possibly, guys, I'm being almost between 125 to $150 for the condition it's in, and it's in fantastic condition. Now the back is in great condition. I don't know who they got these treasury editions from, but whoever it was actually took care of these somehow, right? So you cannot complain. So that's a good night for going out and buying clothes, right? And that's at the mall, all right? That's the mall one, all right? We got 2 more stacks to go through here, man. All right, let's see what we have here. Lots of comments. Make sure you comment. That's a big part of the show when I do this stuff, man. Yeah, let me see here. Oh yeah, the Last Avengers story. I showed that in the Peter David thing. Try the Last Avengers story, a 2-issue alternate future miniseries with pointed art. I showed that on the Peter David show I was talking about. Everybody is saying hello to each other. All right, what we got here? This is Paolo again. Gil Kane. Oh, and by the way, Paolo, make sure you're subscribed to Paolo. He does the talk show on Friday nights that Jared and I started, I don't know, what was it, like 5 years ago. And Paolo came on board. And then when the pandemic was over and I had to go to work, they started on Jared Osborne. So now Jared Osborne and Paolo are going back and forth on their channels with the Friday night Cavern of Chaos show, where you just never know what comic topic they're going to talk about. Gil Kane and Pete Craig Russell did a 4-part adaptation of the Jungle Book in Marvel Fanfare, issues 8 to 11, I believe. I should have them all. I just haven't pulled them out in a while. Those issues really get focused on, I think, off the top of my head, I think it's 11 and 12 specifically. Could be wrong because of the George Perez Black Widow When still two-part story that's in there. When she popped up in Iron Man and then the Avengers around here, people were like grabbing them left and right like they were finding treasure. But I would much rather read anything that Craig Russell does, inking, penciling, anything. I think he did a complete Jungle Book adaptation that just got recolored through a Kickstarter or something. Okay, it is bound with staple balloon and it has a cover date. It's a magazine. No such thing as a comic format in publishing. Oh my goodness. Well, what about these treasury editions? They're not the standard size either. You know, it's cracks me up. Yeah. Okay. Superman Spider-Man came out about 2 months after I started the hobby. Yes, Breen. That is a great time to be starting. Came out in January 76, I believe. I've been hooked ever since. Oh man, what a great time. Now, when I was about 7 or 8, the second one came out, right? And it was the Spider-Man Superman crossover where we got Parasite, Daredevil, Superman versus the Hulk, Spider-Man versus Wonder Woman. Doctor Doom just handed Superman his ass, in my opinion. You know, but yeah, I was like 7, 8 years old, mesmerized back that. Then I read Steve Gerber and Gene Colan's Phantom Zone miniseries, which was just a mind trip for me, just how bizarre it was. All right, Friar Tuck. Oh, great to see you, man. Thanks, man. I got a little bit more to show. Great, man. May have to dig out my '90s Aquaman in honor of Peter David. Yeah, I had almost all of that. I had almost all of his run and sold it for space. I was like, what am I going to reread? Kept a few issues here and there. It was a great run. I kept his Atlantis Chronicles, so definitely watch my show because I kept Atlantis Chronicles that he did years before he did his Aquaman that he pulled from there, guys. We have interesting discussions like, did Todd McFarlane invent the most efficient way of drawing chains? That is the Cavern of Chaos, guys. There you go. Hey, Woodward's here. Great to see you, brother, man. Second time in a month, the 30 days. Second time in the 30 days. Great to see you, man. Make sure you subscribe to Woodward. Eric Breen, the second Superman Spider-Man was an original cast grab. Oh, that thing was fantastic, man. I still like it. I was able to find a copy because ours disintegrated, you know, over the years because we had 3 people reading them over the years and stuff and moving around and dragging them around and stuff. So one more. So we're gonna sit here in. I think I got these for $2 a piece, right? Life moves pretty fast, right? There is a place, and believe it or not, Sticky Goose has been there. All right. So if you guys are Sticky Goose guys, I'm assuming he's still around. He's actually been less than 3 miles from my house, guys. I watched his videos when he did road trips and saw him up here in Princeton and things like that. He's just circled all around here and stuff. And everything like that. So I went to that shop, and I didn't like going to the shop for years. And I'm still kind of iffy when I go in there. I don't go in there very much, even though he has a plethora of comic books and stuff, and all sorts of other toys and everything like that, and collectibles and records and video games, and magazines, and action figures and stuff. Right? It's like this is the world's smallest warehouse, is what it feels like sometimes. Better organized than it's been, but they do the thing where he will look them up on eBay. You can dig through his stuff. He has gotten better because there are things that are priced, and I bought some stuff that was priced. And I'm going to say this was maybe $2 a pop because I popped in there because there's a Mexican restaurant beside of it. I was meeting the wife after I got off work, and I was waiting for her to get there, and she was like, I got to take a shower, and then I'll be right there, 3 miles away. So I went in there and I found these for $2 a piece. And I'm like, well, that's a good day. And they are a notch above mid grade. So I can't complain, right? So there's things that I try to collect. I come on here, I don't say too much because it's Bronze Age stuff. There's people here. The people here right now are going to appreciate these. You know what I mean? But for its own video, just to talk about it, not a lot of people out there unless I find Edgar Rice Burroughs group or something, right? But I try to there's certain runs I'm trying to complete on my own, even though I am going to be slashing, refining, doing a purge again of the collection stuff. But here I am still buying stuff. For, yeah, $2 a piece. They are on the $2. Good that was there, right? So we have Weird Worlds here, right? From the world of Tarzan, right? One of my favorite things about DC in the 70s that I still hold fast to is that, yes, you had Marvel, right? Bronze Age is my favorite era, even though I love my 80s that I grew up in. I was there during Crisis. I was there during the Secret Wars. I was there during the Infernos and the massacres. You know what I mean? Great time. You know what I mean? But there's something magical about people who grew up reading the pulps and actually reading their magazines and reading comic books. And then they come into this with like zero, um, zero shame that they're into comic books and stuff. Just a great era. Then you had Joe Kubert editing the Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff that they had there for a few years. And this is some of my favorite stuff. Jack Kirby on Commandy, Joe Kubert on Tarzan. Just a great place, right? So there's 10 issues of these weird worlds that were Edgar Rice Burroughs characters and stuff like that, right? And I think there's 10 of them. Here's number 5. I think I'm down to needing one issue of the 10 issues, right? And here's Weird Worlds with Iron Wolf, and I think this is Howard Chaykin art, right? Mike Kaluta, excuse me. Mike Kaluta. I know somewhere in some of these fantasy stories, man, Chaykin was in there and stuff, right? But yeah, so we have number 10 here, which I do believe is the last issue. And I finally got to find out, why did this stuff get canceled? This was years before the DC implosion, right? But basically they're saying in here that this title got canceled because they couldn't buy the paper for it. There was some kind of weird paper shortage going on, and paper was super expensive. So I have something else. I have something else to look up in comic book history, because it seems like I have an inkling of a seed of remembering something about a paper shortage, but I don't remember it being in the early 70s. You follow me? So yeah, Weird Worlds, Iron Wolf, number 10. So the 10 issues of these Weird Worlds, I absolutely love it. Joe Kubert actually writing, adapting the Edgar Rice Burroughs story, The Origin of Tarzan, those first 4 issues of that run. That should be handed out just like you would hand out Jack Kirby on how to do action. Joe Kubert's Tarzan is the book they should be floating around to show you storytelling. It's just fantastic stuff, right? So yeah. So anyway, take that in, man. Some early Mike Kaluta, man. I actually ran into some Mike Kaluta sketchbooks that I did not get because they were $3 a piece, and I really had to ask myself, do you really want a bunch of pencil sketches and stuff, right? Considering what I would show at that flea market. Then we have the Demon. I'm actually going to go for number 1 at some point. I don't know how I'm going to do this and stuff, right? But from what I remember being told, this was the book that Kirby did not want to do. And I keep finding issues on the cheap and in relatively good shape. We'll say mid grade and up. But what a fantastic, fun series for something, the Demon. It's supposed to be dark and stuff, man. The Witch Kid, man, has got to be one of my favorite characters, not just with Kirby, but ever. You know what I mean? But yeah, this is just I'm keep running into these on the cheap. This is number 10. Some unappreciated. It's got its fans. Don't get me wrong, right? But the Demon didn't really pop in my memory, at least in my comic book collecting in my circle as a kid, until Matt Wagner came on, and I think he was the one that made him the rhyming demon and stuff, and it started going off. And Garth Ennis got a hold of him on his run there after Alan Grant, and they popped in Lobo and stuff during the 90s and stuff. Oh man, what we got here? The original cash grab was when MC Gaines put a price sticker in a free pamphlet with the comic strips inside. Paolo dropping some knowledge. Dark Horse once did a collection of those Weird Worlds, John Carter and Mars stories. I think I remember that. I have some Venus also, the Carson of Venus. God, I'm on the spot here trying to remember it and stuff, man. I have some, I think it's Tarzan Family. I have some of that stuff, and it is some fantastic art. Seems like I put it on Instagram back in the day, and that's a good time to plug my Instagram. Howler Mouse on Instagram, guys, because I might post some of this stuff before it makes it to a video. All right. Werewolf by Lunchtime. Love that handle. Great to see you again, man. Great to see you, man. And we got someone screaming at Breen. Breen should be there tonight for, oh, they're having a conversation. Great. Okay, Jay. Got you, man. All right. So some other things I found at a flea market, an indoor flea market here that I'm going to go ahead and show you, man. But I want to show you the most dramatic book I ever read, right? I read this as a kid, and it holds up. It is still the most dramatic book I've ever read. Almost every page, the main character is screaming at you, do not turn that page, right? And when you turn the page, he goes, oh, to hell. He actually builds a brick wall telling you not to turn the page. And when you turn the page, the wall is in the rubble. And he's like, I did not realize you were so strong, you know. So anyway, it is, early. I already have one of these, but this is an earlier print of the monster at the end of this book, right? A must for every collection. I'm just telling you guys, right? Um, Look, I'm saying, man, the Muppets is what I'm trying to get at, man. But who is the monster at the end of this book? All right. But yeah, I mean, like I said, just drama, 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 man. Look at him. Look at all that, man. If I had the drama award, it would go to Grover. And then I pick these up every now and then, right? This is actually the second and third ones I get. I didn't even really buy these as a kid, right? But there's something going on where I'm looking at these and I'm like, that would be great framed. And I like the eclectic ones, right? I have a Rocketeer from the Rocketeer movie of 1991, whenever that came out. And I found these, right? And these were $1. So I was like, why not? But from our from the Bruce Timm Paul Dini universe of the 90s, The Adventures of Batman and Robin, we have the frame puzzle, and this thing is in fantastic shape. And would that not look cool just framed somewhere, right? And then I had to get this one, right? Because there's an era of Disney I love. Even as a kid, I liked the older stuff, right? And some of it I didn't even realize it was old and stuff, right? But for me, my Disney is like from 1959, 60 and back, all the way back. Okay. And one of those things is, Fantasia. I'm a big fan of Fantasia, as many people are. But now that I've gotten older, I will watch Fantasia and Fantasia, 2000, the sequel with the floating whales, the air whales. It makes me think of Philip Jose Farmer. For you guys that want to dig deep into that. But anyway, it's I use it for ASMR. It'll knock me out. It'll knock me out and stuff, right? But I'm like, the Sorcerer's Apprentice. That goes beyond Disney. That's pop culture there, man. You know what I mean? Surrounded by the mops with the flooding he does, right? Okay, here we go. All right, now we're going to be getting into what I bought this morning. We're moving right along. I appreciate everybody being here. Make sure you subscribe, thumbs up, keep the comments going. JP Fun, Comic Crack, love that Grover book. See, Crack, I've always said, you have fine taste. You know what I mean? You have exquisite taste, as they say. Read it as a kid and read and loads to my kids. Absolutely. Where the Wild Things Are, I still read that. Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. I need a copy of that. Yeah, there's still books I read as a kid that I still think a lot of. Okay, all right. So the flea market this morning, for you guys that had just popped in, it was raining. The rain does not stop me, right? Ex-military, years and years ago, and if it ain't raining, we're not training. There's been people at work who will send me across a parking lot. I was in Fort Leonard Wood, lost in the woods, where the weather changes every 5 minutes. So if you don't like it, just wait. And then they'll have to remind me I'm kind of in the rain a little bit, right? It cracks me up because I think of a scene in Forrest Gump where you can tell he's not thinking about being in the rain. They do that to you. It happens. It happens, right? And it's a good thing because, like I said, the lines were shorter. I was able to get through the place. Less vendors. They knew the weather and everything was going to clear up. So I was in and out about 2 hours before I usually end up. They usually ends up being a half a day thing, right? And I show up at 7 in the morning there, right? So I was able to just kind of cruise through there and actually was able to take a little bit more time to look at places, right? And this one vendor did not have anything pop culture, right? He did not have any books, magazines. He had some coins, and I mean, glassware. I don't know what he had. It wasn't Potter. I don't know what he had, right? You know what I'm saying? But all of a sudden, sticking out, I saw these feet. I just saw these feet sticking out way down there. I was like, wait a minute, what is that? I think I recognize those feet. And I tell you what, guys, this has got to be 3 or 4 pounds of goodness. I'm actually going to weigh myself holding this and then set it down and weigh myself again to see how much this fantastic, clean, articulated with tight joints Dr. Doom is. The worst thing is that we need to loosen up, put the hood there a little bit. You know what I mean? But yeah, I looked on here. This is about some kind of 2008. I would guess this may be a full 12 inches, man. I don't know, man. Full 12. You know, But Doctor Doom. Um, 2 or 3 years ago, with the Marvel Legends series or something like that, I was walking around a Walmart and it was packaged up and it was a fantastic sculpt of Doctor Doom. All right, and I wanted to get it because the Super Walmart is just full of scalpers for eBay and stuff, right? And it's actually kind of pathetic. You know what I mean? It really is, right? So I'm walking around this and I'm like, I'm a grown man. I'm out of this. I had my comic book room also used to be full of toys. I had was it a 300, 250? I don't want to make a fish story out of it and stuff, but I sold at least a 300 piece Star Wars collection in 2006, right? And then I had a bunch of McFarlane toys like the Yellow Submarine and a bunch of his fantasy stuff, the Centaur with the Morning Star and a bunch of skulls and things like that. And then I had like almost all of the Paul Dini, Bruce Timm verse, Justice League International toys. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I was at Walmart at midnight with all my friends when the Star Wars toys of the 2099 to the 2000s were coming out at midnight releases and stuff. It was all fun. And I had a bunch of vintage stuff, right? You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. And I sold them. I'm like, I'm a grown man. I need to get out of it. And yet here I am catching myself getting glorious things like this, right? And it's going to go up there with the Batman that my son got. It's going to go up there with my Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes stuff and everything like that, right? But what I like about this is this thing feels solid, man. I mean, I could just swing this and probably like knock somebody out and take their comics. You know what I mean? So I didn't even haggle the guy. The guy was so cool about it. He was like, "Who is that? I've been wondering who that is." And I wished I took the time to ask him, "How did you get this?" He had no idea who Doctor Doom was, and he wasn't playing me. You know what I'm saying? That's what was so cool, man. Very cool old guy. And I can say old guy because I'm one now. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Doctor Doom, very cool. I'll just lay that right there. And that's the fun of the stuff. Sometimes you just never know what you're going to get, right? So it's Doomtastic. And guys, to take this moment, we're getting real close to the Superman movie and the Fantastic Four movie. And I hope they both do well. I'm already having problems with the Fantastic Four movie, and I've already had to try to make peace that I'm gonna go see this thing because the stepson and the wife are excited. My wife is a connoisseur of the Marvel movies, not the comics, the Marvel movies, right? And when we were watching, what movie did we go to? Oh, we went and saw Thunderbolts, and they had the trailer for the Fantastic Four on it. I figured they'd already seen it with it already being online. And I looked over and the step kid was just mesmerized. You know what I mean? That's another thing, reason I didn't really stream too much. He graduated here last weekend. We had graduation everything last weekend. But anyway, so I'm going to end up seeing the Fantastic Four. And I'm also very excited about Superman. So I hope they both do well. And I kind of like the idea of like we have Superman and Fantastic Four, the guy, the hero who really started it all back in '38, and then the ones that started it all in '61 for the Marvel universe and stuff. So we're going to hope for the best with both movies and stuff, and just kind of try to enjoy them for what they are. And why am I bringing this up? Because it was on my mind, right? So let's move on, right? Now we're into this morning's flea market hauls. Let me look around, make sure I'm organized and ready and focused as we can do this, right? So we're going to start out slow. And some of these things, we'll see what happens and stuff, right? So there's like a lot of choices, right? Now, the biggest thing that happened, I'm going to go ahead and get this bitch out of the way, is I went to one vendor. It was raining really hard. He had one box up, three boxes, excuse me, three short boxes, and it was $4 a piece or three for 10. And it was assorted trades and stuff, right? We're talking trades from 1988 of the Roger Stern, John Byrne, Captain America stuff. Some of the trades I got, a long shot trade that I put back because it actually had mold on the outside of it, a hardback of Neil Gaiman's 1602. And I said, well, I'll be right back. I'll be right back, because it was kind of getting crowded. Everybody was wet from where it was raining. I'm like, well, let's let everybody clear out. You know what I'm saying? So I told the guy I was coming back. And he was like, yeah, sure, sure, sure. We'll see you in a minute, right? We actually had a small little talk. So I come back, and I don't think it was 15 minutes, really. And I come back, and as I'm going through those three boxes again, he goes, oh, by the way, there's more underneath the tables. Come around the corner here, lift up the tablecloth, and he had milk crates of better stuff, and he'd let me know that some guy just bought 21 trades for $70 or something like that. And I'm just, it was killing me because I was just there. He knew what I was interested in. And I don't know how that guy must have already been down looking at them on the other side of the table. That's all I could figure out. And I cannot, with what I saw, I can't help but wonder what the hell was there, because they had things like Alan Moore and Bill Sienkiewicz #1 of big numbers, but it was water damage, so I didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? So I got to get that out of the way. I do that. I'm like, I sit there and I'm like, what did I miss? What have people been picking through, right? So lightheartedly, now we got that out of the way. That was the one downer, in my opinion. Not even a downer, just nature of the beast. It happens. I've been that guy that scooped them up over the years. Sometimes the karma comes back. You know what I mean? We all pay our dues. But anyway, there's times where I'm like, sometimes a funny book just needs to be a funny book, right? And one of the staples that were in the house right there was Savage Swords of Conan magazines all over the place and stuff like that. There was Gru, right? The first 15 issues of Gru, the sorted issues. They're clearly in my mind with the covers and stuff, right? And if you saw me last year, you saw I found the last issue, 120, the big book that's, people pay big bucks for and stuff, right? That I found at a flea market in Johnson City and stuff. And I looked around and I've got quite a few of these issues and stuff. So I've decided I want to try to get all the Gru. I've already got the harder issues to get. Issue 29 seems to be a little hard to get because that's the first appearance of Rufio the dog. But what's my point? I'm talking specifically of the Epic Comics. So we have issue number 43, right? And you get your money out of this, right? These are dense books, even though they're funny. Sergio Aragonis goes in there with his highly detailed cartoony art that he probably draws an issue in an afternoon. And then Mark Evanier comes in there and, adds a little dialogue there and helps with the jokes and everything, right? So here's issue number 85. Now, that first issue there is a little bit lower grade than I normally would have bought, even for whatever it was I bought, a buck or whatever I got. This was a bundle deal, okay? So we're going to say it was a buck, but after what I bought in bulk, it was a little bit less, right? But yeah, these Grus are, I enjoy them, but I can't sit down and binge them. One issue, so much happens in them, and there's so much dialogue. They really gave you your bang for your buck. Even some of the gags, they either land or they don't, but none of them are horrible. What is this? Number 81, part 2 of 4. So I think I can finally go back and read this 4-part story. But like I said, you can get things like Sergio and Mark Evanier will be talking to you, or you'll see how they're talking about what's going to happen in the issue. We got to come up with an idea. We're doing a multi-part thing, and they bitch about Marvel sometimes in these, all right? They have their own cast of characters that pop up. I mean, Gru is its own thing, its own little world. And of course, if you are a Usagi Yojimbo guy, Steve Sakai letters all the issues. He's the letterer on those. He's friends with Sergio. There you go, man. And of course, Sergio. I discovered Sergio in Mad Magazine with those little corner things, his little gags that'd be on the edge of an edge of the page, real tiny, dozens of them. And then every now and then we'd get a couple of spreads. And then I remember losing my shit when I saw bloopers, TV's bloopers. I don't know. I can't even think what it was. Ed McMahon and Dick Clark hosting the blooper show in the 80s. And they had animated Sergio, a marching band would go through for the commercial bumpers and stuff. Memories, man. It's all kicking in. So yeah, a few more off the cuff here of Sergio stuff. Actually, I have a box of humor comics and Sergio stuff, man. Adaptations he did. Now these, I probably have what I'm going to show you here. I probably have all of these already collected, right? These are already on my shelf, my library, right? David Anthony Kraft's comic interviews, super specials, and collected stuff, right? Okay. Comics interviews, super special, big bat book. As you can see, the Batman themes, I had to have them, when I ran across them. And basically they are collections of they've already had the interviews and stuff over several issues. So I was sitting here trying to figure out at 7 in the morning, guys, possibly 7:05 in the morning, already jacked up on a little bit of caffeine and things like that. I'm like, my app, my CLZ app, was showing I didn't have these, but I'm like, I've read these. How do I know these? It dawned on me later they're in my collected editions, but that's okay, man, because this is the stuff that I would like to think that it's got to be archived for people somewhere out there online, right? I used to give Wikipedia a hard time, right? But that was like 10, 12, 13 years ago. It's much now, right? It really was full of misinformation on comic book history, on your characters, on your books. It's much better. But there is still nothing. I feel like I'm on an episode of Star Trek where I think Kirk was on trial and he had the lawyer that had a room full of books and he still would read the law books instead of going through the digital whatever they had back in the day, the little green cards they would drop in, look like a wafer. But anyway, there's still nothing like getting your fingers on the actual interviews and stuff because they will drop knowledge when they ask a creator certain things. They'll drop knowledge about a job or an inspiration or something that just doesn't get recorded anywhere else, right? So I would like to think that Amazing Heroes and Comics Interview and stuff there, and Wizard Magazine. I mean, the first, seriously, I would say the first 10 years is the good stuff. If I really had to guess, that's the good stuff, right? These interviews and stuff, if you're into comic book history and things as they were going on and getting a feel for what was going on in the hobby at the time, what was hot and what was exciting. Uh, JLA Avengers, George Perez and stuff, people were still hoping for that. And the Watchmen was finally really seriously growing. Um, and of course, Batman was super hot thanks to Tim Burton stuff. There's nothing like having these magazines, right? But anyway, comic scene and all this stuff, right? So yeah, the whole, these ended up being less than $1. Here's number 70, Vicky Vale. Um, and this is one I'm pretty sure Ed Hannikin, Tom Sutton from, if you know Tom Sutton, he's got to be one of the greatest horror artists ever from Charlton. And I know he made it to DC and stuff. And then just all sorts of things, right? But yeah, Legends of the Dark Knight comics interview. I get as excited to have these and to be able to flip through them and read them as I do with comics and stuff, right? So let me show you what you're getting. Right, here's just a random page. They take a quote and they put it across the top. He doesn't carry a gun. Why don't they just shoot this guy? And we get artwork. That's Brian Boland killing Joke right there. That's the poster. That's the famous image. And then we get a little Frank Miller, Dark Knight Returns, doing his best Zorro imitation on that horse there and stuff like that. And that lets you, and it's relevant to what you're about to read about what they're going to talk about or quote or something like that. Uh, what's this? I'm taking too much time with this, I know. For 70s fan, they kill off Robin. They kill Robin off. That's for 70 fans. They kill Robin off. That's absurd. It's funny that I just found that quote by randomly opening the book because I was one of the guys that voted to kill Jason Todd. Guilty. Anyway, yeah, I would ask for my money back on that phone call, but if you guys remember me telling the story, I put in a bunch of change in a payphone and it recorded my vote or something. And then when I hung it up, all the change came back out. And I was like, free call. So yeah, I got a free vote. Okay, so I went ahead and grabbed this, right? There's a certain feel, right? I like books that weren't from DC and Marvel when it was called alternative comics instead of indies. Indies really, the name really took off in the 90s, you know what I'm saying? But they were alternative books. Comics, what was it? Amazing Heroes or something would have like the top 100 books, and then they would have like in the corner the top 100 alternative books and stuff. And I was told, somebody in the comments in one of my videos told me who were there, so they were probably called alternative comics because they were alternative to the mainstream of Marvel and DC, right? And there's just a feel, a magic for early Dark Horse when they were doing Concrete and Dark Horse Presents. I would see these things in ads, and I finally made it to a comic book shop around 88 or 89 and a Walden Books at the particular mall I keep talking about that was like an hour away, but back then it felt like a whole world away, where I was so young and stuff, right? Didn't have a car, couldn't drive myself and stuff. So they had a mystique to them. Elementals, Kamiko, and things like that. I would see these ads and I would see Mile High Comics and all the places you could buy your comics, the advertisements, and they're talking about these things, right? And one of the things that you actually started hearing about was they got the licensed properties, and Aliens versus Predator was getting huge, right? So I've just found a random Alien versus Predator #2 of some miniseries and just grabbed it. I have not looked up what this was. I did not read it when it came out because it was not on a newsstand. And God, what was I doing when this came out? If this is 1990 and stuff, yeah, yeah, girls and partying. Basically, what it comes down to: rock and roll, going to concerts and stuff. Right? Still doing the comic book thing. I never ever dropped out of that, except for well, that's a time for another story, right? And then I can't believe I found this for $3, right? I didn't even haggle on this. I just was why not? It's got to be worth more than $3. It's in excellent condition. These were in the house. I still have some beat up copies over here of the stepdad's issues of this, right? He had this, he had the Werewolf by Night. You guys are going to freak out when I let you know that I had Werewolf by Night number, what was it, 32? The first appearance of in the stepdad's collection. I used to like throw that thing across the room, you know, because I was just like, get out of my stack and stuff like that. Sold that back in 2008, you know, things like that. But there's something about these, and it's Tom Palmer. I'm so glad I got to meet Tom Palmer. Charleston 66. I went to Baltimore Con with him a couple years ago. Tom Palmer was there. I got to tell Tom Palmer how his inking style and the things that he did made me really look at art. You know what I mean? And I had a whole spiel for him. I can almost remember it word for word. And he looks at his handler and he goes, "When this man will not be charged for signatures." And Charlton got a picture of us. So it was really hard when he got down there. But this is where I discovered Tom Palmer in the Stepdad's collection. And probably about, I can't let it go, probably about 10 years ago at the Hillsville Flea Market, I had spent my budget. I could have got more money, but I had spent my budget. And as I'm walking out, some guy opens up oh my God, what is it? Anyway, a tub. He has another tub of stuff, and in it are these mint conditions copies of The Tomb of Dracula by Marv Wolfman, Gene Colan, and all of them, right? I have a few epic collections and stuff. I have one epic collection and stuff, but this is a book that I followed because the Stepdad had a stack of it, probably like the last 20 issues that I can really recall, I think, of the series. But this is number 54 for $3. I thought that was a hell of a deal. And it was just in a random box, just a random box. I was like, oh, wow, out of nowhere, right? Now, this one right here, these two issues here, this is for fun. And I had a great story talking to the old man that was selling these. Again, I say old man because I am one, right? But it was just random that I found him because at the flea market they have a whole place where you can go up and there's lines where people are buying breakfast. The money, some people keep the money. You go down one where there's other people selling another breakfast that you can get their gravy biscuits and things like that, and that goes to charity. And they're telling you to come back because they'll start having corn dogs and the hot dogs and everything like that. And I was thinking about like, well, you know, the crowd's not big because of the rain. Maybe I'll get something. And I look over and there's a guy with a table and he just has these sitting there and he's an older gentleman. And we start talking and somehow we kind of connected because, you know, I've always had a thing for the old guys. I really have, you know. We connected and somewhere on the line he was like, we got some Red Rider comics here. He had a bunch of old um, vintage Red Rider and Western books, and he just had these two magazines stuck in the middle of them. And I kind of wondered because he said he goes like most of these are from my own personal collection, if you know who Red Rider is. So I don't know if this guy was bullshitting me or not, but either way, I ended up enjoying it and stuff, right? So I'm like, yeah, I know Red Rider. I used to watch The Lone Ranger. I used to watch The Adventures of Superman on the little antenna as I was a kid. I'm well aware I got started and all that stuff. And then he saw me looking at these magazines. And I explained to him I used to have a $5 allowance. And it was, do I get a He-Man or do I get a G.I. Joe? Because he had some He-Man and the Masters of the Universe magazines, right? When I was a kid, it was this and Muppet Magazine. That's what you wanted to get your hands on when you saw them, right? I got one or two GI Joe magazines, right? But yeah, these were cool, man. And whatever the cover is, you would have the poster in there, and they have the posters in here. They had to fold out because in the middle of it, you got your little comic strip, and most of the times you had to take out the staples of these, and it was a two-sided poster, but it was always the cover. The artist, which I cannot believe I'm going to blank on because I have the art of the Masters of the Universe on here. I can't believe this guy was like 60 in his 60s, I believe, 50s or 60s when he was doing this fantastic art. I mean, this was right up there with Conan the Barbarian covers for me by Joe Jusko and Frank Frazetta and stuff. This guy was on equal ground as far as I'm concerned. And I can still remember that toy and stuff, right? So we got that one. And guys, I still have some muscles. My brother had the muscles in the championship belt that you would put in there. And this is not the last issue of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, but this is your last issue to the subscription. They would mail those to let you know this is your last issue. Renew your subscription, please. And what it would inadvertently do is if you left that on there, it would protect your magazine. So we got another one that is in fantastic condition, guys. Right? All right, guys. So we just have a few more things here. Okay. I say what I think for what I got, the best for last. I don't know if it'll blow you away or not. So let's do a little comments and we'll finish it up, guys. We've gone over an hour, but we're about done here. Okay. Wow, Doomtastic. Here we go. JP Fawn. Haller, are you a Doom? Are you a Doom? Doom is horrifically scarred under that mask, or is it just a blemish which drives me mad? It's supposed to be a blemish, and I think they kept it a blemish. But I swear, there's a Stan Lee Jack Kirby issue that I read as a kid, where it seems like he was like in the bowels of hell. I remember there's fire all around him, and supposedly he took the mask off, and he had melty skin, and his eyeballs were just big and white. He looked like the Master from an old Tom Baker Doctor Who thing. And I would love to know what that was or what I was reading as a kid. But it's supposedly they took it, it's a romantic concept they probably took from Jack Kirby. I saw the interview where he kind of explained what influenced it. But yeah, he's a good looking man with a scar that just made him feel horrific because of his narcissism. Yeah. I just bought a house and just today put my Doctor Doom Marvel Legends figure along with it. So many and out in storage. Oh, hey man, you know, that happens, man. You know, sometimes we have to make the adult choices. You know what I mean? So, but you know, I'm kind of sad for Doom, man, but it's a house. You know what I mean? It's yeah. My bold prediction is that the Superman movie will be a big hit. I think Batman '89 big. It's made the thing about it is they made the Superman movie big, bright, and colorful, and they got a dog in it. It's going to be for families, right? That's where they're going to get the money. All right, kids are going to want to see this, right? Even if adults end up hating the movie, they've got the kids. You know what I mean? I got excited to see Crypto. You know what I mean? And always go for underneath the table boxes first. If I'd known it was there, crack. I mean, you know what I mean? I would love to say this was a rookie mistake. I didn't know it was there. I can't believe you didn't tell me. You follow me? So that's why I'm kind of pissy about it. You know what I mean? And then, you know, that I'm talking to you, crack, I'm like, maybe I should have asked. Do you have any more? I don't know. I don't know. Gotta let it go. Yes, Cavern of Chaos. Off topic, my wife bought me bought me Washing Machine by Sonic Youth for my birthday. Oh, the album Sonic Youth. Yes, yes, huge Sonic Youth guy. Oh, Cinderella's big score. Oh, kiss me like a dog. Well, I mean, Teenage Riot, man. I actually got to get my hands on that album in '88 somehow. So one of my friends had it. I think it was on a cassette that they recorded on their own, or I don't know. But yeah, I got it bootleg when I found it. Oh my God, Sugarcane. Sugarcane is one of my favorite songs by them. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. But yeah, that whole album, Teenage Riot, man, that just takes me to a happy place, you know. So all right. Yeah, I'm doing the thing on the side where I talk about albums and CDs and music that I have, just talking about like memories with them and stuff. I'm sure they'll pop up. All right, guys, are we ready for the one of the big finishes here, right? We'll do it this way, okay? So these do need to be a little bit cleaned up, right? So years ago, I've kept a handful. I've kept a handful. I'm not, you know, I'm sentimental that way and stuff, right? But Hellboy, okay. Um, I was there with Hellboy from the beginning, right? The name Hellboy at a time for a time really sounded dangerous and notorious and a little sacrilegious. You really had a moment where you were like, "Oh, should I be getting this?" Then you read the book, you see a little bit of the humor that's in there, the blue collar feel, everything that's been said about it. Hellboy is Hellboy. And it blows my mind Hellboy is over 30 years old now. And that really blows my mind, guys. Okay. So the thing about it is, though, is that I read an interview by Mignola somewhere over the years, definitely by the 90s and stuff, right? And in that interview, it reveals, it's probably, I'm going to say Wizard. We'll go with Wizard, guys. Okay. That's definitely probably where it came from. I feel 99% sure that's where it's at. And he revealed that he would start a book, start a page, and just trash it because it looked horrible. And that's why some of the books came out late in his mind or whatever was going on. And then what he did is that he would get the comic out, and then when he would do the trades, he would add pages for the pacing for his own sake. So to get the complete story, I'm reading this and I'm like, you have to get the trades. So I got rid of a bunch of my Hellboys and got a bunch of collected these trades over the year. Never have bought one brand new. Now these do need to be a little cleaned up, right? But so these were part of the 4 for $1 thing, whatever I did here. 3 for $1, excuse me. Yeah, part of the 3 for $1. So the one we have here is, and I had the Bride of Hell. I actually kept that book, you know what I mean? But we have the Hellboy trade number 11. I have the first library edition, the last library edition called From Hell. They didn't put a number on it. And then I kind of keep these trades for in the middle and stuff, right? So this is the one that's assorted stories in here, Mignola and others. I think it's got a John Casey story, Corbin story in it with the art, just fantastic stuff. It's got the Lucha Libre story in there where he was in Mexico. Corbin drew those and stuff. So yeah, we have the Bride of Hell and other stories, right? Hellboy actually has a place on the shelves that are behind the camera now. Usually I'm turned around with my library behind me here, but it gets its own section. The Hellboy books are really their own thing. They're so unique with their storytelling that I don't like really trying to categorize them, right? Maybe I've elevated the book in my head. It's not even one of my favorite books, you know what I mean, that I go back and reread like I do other things, right? But when I read them, there is nothing like it. The folklore, the mythologies from around the world, connecting the witches, an African witch from African folklore with a Russian witch, all the things that he does that he ties together with the research and stuff, and the H.P. Lovecraft influence. You know, what I'm saying, are just amazing, right? Now here's one that I'm actually glad I was able to find. It's another Hellboy, guys, right? And it doesn't have a number, and I've never really seen it listed, but it goes with the Hellboy library, you know what I'm saying? But I can just imagine what had to be done to actually get this collection together. It had to be in the contracts to begin with, or maybe I'm making it more than what it is. But this is the crossover Hellboy stories, right? And I have one complete story already. I bought it when it came out. It's with my Starman stuff. And then there's the Ghost one with the Adam Hughes covers and stuff, right? But it's Hellboy, Masks and Monsters. It's a very underrated James Robinson written, Mike Mignola drawn Hellboy Batman Starman story, which is fantastic. And then it also collects the Ghost from Dark Horse and the Hellboy. I think it was a 2-issue crossover off the top of my head. I have 1 issue of it. For some reason, it has to be the Adam Hughes covers. But Ghost didn't really grab anybody back in the day, right? At least in my circles. If you're a fan of it or whatever, great. You know what I mean? That Barbed Wire movie came out from Dark Horse, and I'm not joking, that sort of killed some of it. There was this big bad girl a phenomenon going on where we got like Lady Rawhide and all these other great things, Lady Death, and all these things came out. Bad Girls. There's a whole Wizard special I have down here talking about and stuff. And then when the Pamela Anderson Barbed Wire thing came out, I don't know what happened, but they just kind of laid there. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, at least in my area. It's the 90s before the internet, so I'm going by my experience, guys. I'm well aware. I hope other people are well aware that in their circles, it was other places, right? But Ghost got thrown in there because of the I think pretty sure Adam Hughes covers or something going on, right? And Ghost, I've got a few issues of Ghost. I've read a few issues of Ghost. It's just fine. It's just fine. You know what I mean? It's a cool character, right? But it never really took off. But it was very cool to have a Hellboy and Ghost come together because it makes sense for those two to be together, right? So if there's any trade of Hellboy that's for fun where you're going to get some really good stuff, it's probably this Masks and Monsters. I'm a Starman fan. Everybody knows that and Commandy are my they battle in my head of which is my my favorite series ever. You know what I mean? Um, ongoing series and stuff, right? They're finette, in my opinion. Even though Commandy really didn't have an ending, the Jack Kirby stuff is all you need, So, all right. We got two more. We'll go ahead and do just a few more here. A few more comments. I'll call my wife back. She's calling me here. What is this? What is this? Sonic Youth references? They'll learn me to leave. Somebody saw them in '88. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's before Cool Thing. That's before MTV. Yeah. All right. Sonic Youth references? That'll learn me to leave the chat. Oh, dude. I mean, I react to what you guys throw at me sometimes, man, and y'all bring up the good stuff, right? That's how my memory works. Sorry, Eric, that'll teach you to go to the city chasing comics again. Yeah, Sonic Youth, man. We can talk Sonic Youth all day, man. And I'm not even mad about how they broke up. An anti-orgasm moment for all of us. Am I right? There's 1,000 things I want to say to Tim. I bet there is. You're not the only one, sir. You're not the only one. But when you approach him, he makes you look like a fool. What? Moving on. Yeah, Brina's laughing. That's funny. Okay. All right. Everybody's saying hello. Bunch of fist pumps going on, right? All right, guys, let's wind this up because we have things to do. Everybody's got stuff going on. There's a pay-per-view on tonight. My wife has called. She's off work. I want to make some burgers or something, probably, and all that stuff, right? I mean, I love you guys. Don't get me wrong. But anyway, this was a return to the childhood. I mentioned the Marvel Super Specials a minute ago with Dune, right? Kind of recollecting those and stuff, right? But the big three that were in the house, and I still have bits and pieces of the first one, was the Kiss special. Johnson City, Tennessee, 1977, something like that. Actually went to a Kiss concert when I was 4, and the stepdad was taking the mom. They were very young, and I remember him buying it at an actual 7-Eleven. It's fallen to pieces. I have pages of it and stuff, right? It's been going on. Read that, right? We go into the 80s, right? Temple of Doom, right? Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, comics adaptation in the magazine of the Marvel Super Special and Return of the Jedi, folks, right? And they disintegrated. And what's funny about finding this is that there's a place on X. If you see me on X, I'm on the toilet at work. That's the only time I really play on X, or maybe here at home, right? We're all friends here. I don't care to share that. And somebody put up something about Return of the Jedi. I think it was Spinner Rack or something, which is a great Twitter guy on X, X Twitter, whatever I call it X. I keep trying to refer to it as Twitter for people, right? But anyway, he posted this, and I got to say, my brother, my dad, my stepdad, they disintegrated because we actually read them over and over, and thank goodness I had the 4 issues. This one made it into 4 issues of comic. I still have those, right? Because I remember picking this up and just watching the thing fall to pieces. But this is the pages are discolored. It's wild. It didn't warp the book. It hasn't been pressed or anything, right? But there's a little on all the pages on the right. There's just a little bit of staining on the water. And as I say that, I can feel a little warp here, but that's about it. But somewhere along the line, I think a glass of water got spilled or anything, something like that, right? But this is the Return of the Jedi, Al Williamson drawn adaptation of Return of the Jedi. That is a huge part of my childhood, right? I remember the pinups that are in this thing, right? That was in the 4-issue series. I remember doing this and it'd be read the Temple of Doom adaptation. They went hand in hand, man. I'm just sitting there, just going through them. And I actually got a hardback somewhere along the line. I think I don't know how I got it on sale, but I have a hardback where Dark Horse put it back out with new coloring, and I actually had some mixed feelings there. It's still good to have. So this was the first find of the day, and I actually got it for $5 less than he wanted because I pointed out the staining, right? And that's when I got all of the books together. So I'm not sure what I actually paid for it, but after I kind of showed him that and he saw of these comics I've seen you, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of it, I got a fantastic deal, right? And then this is the last of the guy that I just showed you. These were the 3 for 10 that I went with, the 3 for 10. This is the last one. And I feel kind of excited about this because I have not read this story, if I'm remembering right, since the 90s. And actually, I didn't know it was a Robert E. Howard story. The first time I heard Pigeons from Hell was in a Pretenders song, right? Like a pigeon from hell is how she referenced it. And I've heard people say pigeon from hell, right? But this is a unique, adapted by Scott Hampton with an introduction by someone, Eclipse Comics. But I now have an adaptation, a graphic novel, if you will, of Robert E. Howard's Pigeons from Hell. And as you know, Robert E. Howard, Josh and I, if I get Josh back on here, we talked in text today, and we do keep up with each other with him working on weekends a lot and stuff. But we talk Robert E. Howard quite a bit and stuff, right? So we have a Pigeons from Hell. So I'm going to be very interested in reading this because I can't say what's going to happen is as I read this, I'm going to start remembering the story. You follow me? Like I feel like the story is right on the tip of my brain, but I guarantee it was like 1995, 1996 since I've read it. So yeah, this was a cool hill. I mean, very niche market. I'm a bit more disciplined when I go to these things, as you can tell. But when I find something like this, that's going to go in the Robert E. Howard library that I'm looking at right there. You know what I mean? Yeah, the Conan guy, the Solomon Kane guy, he has some horror. You know what I mean? He had a horror story going on, and it's going to be very interesting to see how brutal it actually is and stuff, right? So, you comic book aficionados, a lot of you guys are dipping out. I don't blame you. So I'm going to go ahead and read these last comments. We'll have a few things to say. I appreciate all of you guys. For you guys that are here live, I have no idea if there's going to be a rainy Sunday or not. It depends what I get done tonight. Everybody's saying hello. Comic Crack, why did Sonic Youth break up? Thurston and Kim Gordon, Thurston Moore, Kim Gordon were married decades. She's older than him, and apparently he had a girlfriend on the side. Okay, and it's a horrible way. It's a horrible thing that happened, and it did. But it sounds they had kids that were raised, and there's no defending. This is not defending Thurston. That is not what I'm saying. But there's an adult take that when you're with somebody for decades and you live that lifestyle, and the kids are raised and things like that. There's no doubt in my mind that the person you are 40 years ago is not the person you are now. And what I also do appreciate is that I know Kim's wrote a book and maybe it's come out what all the dirty details were and stuff, but I'm really glad it has not been exploited. And Kim Gordon has done some great things since then, and Thurston is still creating music. They're both doing their own thing. And it blows my mind that Kim is 70 now or in her 70s and stuff, right? So they broke up. There's 2 sides to every story. Thurston does come off like the bad guy because infidelity, no matter what the case is, you know, it's a pretty shitty thing to do. You follow what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I'm sure there's a story to it, but like I said, you know, when you're wealthy and a rock star, you're still a human being having feelings, but there's just a lifestyle that comes with that we can't relate to. You follow what I'm saying? So yeah. In other words, I feel like whatever the breakup was and what was going on at the end of the day, it is between them, and I feel like they've really been able to keep that there. Thurston, you know, he admitted it. Cheated on the hottest woman in alternative rock. Yes, yes. Steve Albini had a band with a song called Kim Gordon's Panties. There's a song that I love by Sonic Youth, but it's Kim and Kim from the Breeders and the Pixies, called Little Naughty Girl, that I think is fantastic with a very cool video. World by Lunchtime. Belinda from My Bloody Valentine is the hottest. Saw them in '88 as well, and accidentally bumped elbows with her at a bar in Furlham where I was going. Oh man, we're getting into alternative stuff. There's an era of alternative music where these guys bled into the '90s very well. But Mazzy Star, I heard Mazzy Star somehow. I heard Mazzy Star before their big hit, Fade Into You. I swear I heard them in like '89, '90. We'll say '90. I'm gonna go with '90. All right. I got the song in my head. I'm singing it. She says, na, 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 na. Oh my God. Throwing Muses. I loved Throwing Muses when I heard them. But unfortunately, I just saw 2 songs from them. Um, yeah. And then Belly, when she came out with Belly, I'm trying to think of the girl's name. She was in Throwing Muses. I think it was with her stepsister or something. Then she went on to be in The Breeders with Safari in that album, 2, 3 albums. Then she got her own band, and you could tell that was a little bit manufactured because there was two videos for Geppetto with 2 different bands that I could see. Anyway, I gotta get off here, man. Uh, yeah, My Bloody Valentine, Switchblade Sisters, Strawberry Switchblade. I'm not gonna do this, man. I'm gonna go down the well. Kim Deal, thank you, Crack. Yeah, that's it. So, guys, read your comic books. And like I said, this is a great time to be alive, man. You know what I mean? We got music at our fingertips. You got access to secondhand comics in places. We got all this history behind us and so much stuff to get through. Um, I think the only thing I hate is that keeping the moderation going. You've got to have some moderation with this stuff, man. And we have access to a glut of stuff. You know what I mean? And just, thanks. I mean, think about it. Comic book fans and music fans are able to find each other on this little tiny YouTube channel here. And we're all talking like Sonic Youth and books. Do you know how lucky we are? It used to be you had to walk into the right bar to have that happen. You had to find a comic book shop to have that happen. You had to find a record store to have that happen and hope you walked in with the people in that section of the record store, right? So we're very fortunate. Even though modern comics a little rough, people are finally starting to come out more and more and more and admit that and stuff. But luckily it's all about your perspective, man, and what you focus on, man. So let's all focus for a little bit on the good stuff and how lucky we are to have all this stuff, man. You know what I mean? And I gotta say, my last comment here is that when it comes to the smell of comic books being fantastic, I gotta say the vintage 73, 74 comics, I think that's the best smelling comics. And with that, all you guys be excellent to each other. Share the video. Thanks for popping in here, man, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, man. Later, guys.